Welcome, everybody out there to Dad's Watching Sports. Michael Draper here. It is Sunday, January 17th, 2021. And you probably are noticing if you're streaming us live on our Facebook page, which I hope each and every one of you are. I'm solo. Kyle Castle is our normal co-host. My man Kyle, he's got COVID. And Kyle, if you're watching, I love you, buddy. I hope you feel better. You and your wife, I know, are both struggling with that, but I hope you feel better. And Kyle tried to give it a go. I texted him a couple of times this past week and said, "Hey, man, you're in. What do you think is going to happen? Or you think you're going to be good for the podcast?" You know, trying to be a little sensitive. And he was good. He was good. And then he texted me kind of late today and said, "Hey, man, I've been coughing basically every time I try to speak. It's just not going to happen." And so Kyle's out, but that doesn't mean we can't get some pinch hitters here in on Dad's Watching Sports, and we'll get to that in just a second. But again, Sunday, January 17th, 2021, it's episode 48. Hard to believe we were coming up on 50 episodes here of Dad's Watching Sports, so we thank you for joining us. We got episode 50 in 2 weeks, then we've got our 1-year anniversary show coming up right after that. It's Super Bowl Sunday on January 7th, so a lot going on for us. If you're checking us out live on our Facebook page or the Off the Ball Network Facebook page or our YouTube channel, thank you so much. Go ahead and chime in. We'd love to get some comments from you. If you were checking out the show via our podcast feed, go ahead and give us a rating, a review. Go ahead and subscribe. We would love to hear your feedback on our show, and just hit that subscribe button. Kyle says it every week. It takes 2 seconds to hit that little button. So we've got some great guests lined up this evening. Coming up after our first break, I've got Professor Jay from Jeff Needs Help podcast. He's part of the Off the Ball Network, and he's going to be coming on to talk about the college football national championship game. He's a Buckeye, so he's got a lot of big thoughts on that. I'm sure we're going to talk all about Bama and where they rank. We put out a Twitter poll. We'll get into that in a little bit later. And then we have the godfather of Off the Ball Network, Chris LeBron. He's joined us before on this show. He's going to be coming on later in the night to talk some NBA action, who won that James Harden trade, and are the Nets now the beast of the East. But to get us started, we have got a very special guest that I'll introduce in a second. Jeff chimes in saying, "Can't wait." Yes, Jeff, we're looking forward to having you on as well. But to get things kicked off, we've got a very special guest. I have to admit, this is the best guest we've ever had on the show. She's been on previously. She's back on again. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only Mrs. Draper, joining me live here in studio in the Draper Casa.
Hey.
How's it going, Mrs. Draper?
Doing good.
Good.
Thanks for having me on.
Without a doubt. We're very excited to have you on here on Dad's Watching Sports. So I'm not going to necessarily ask you to break down the Bucks and the Saints is going on right now. I know she's been over there, guys. She's extremely invested in the game. I know she's very disappointed that I've even pulled her away from watching. It looks like the Bucks just scored a touchdown. Kyle, if you're watching, man, I'm sorry. Your Saints look like they might not win this game. But thanks for coming on. I know we're not going to talk a whole lot of sports, but
No.
you've had a busy couple of weeks here. So once you catch, for those listeners and watchers out there, once you catch everybody up on what's been going on in your world.
Yeah, so I am a corporate event planner for a health plan company, and I have a huge event that starts on Tuesday. So Michael and I, as you guys have heard, both work from home, and so we've been kind of juggling that for the last year that you've been working from home.
Yep. Thanks, COVID.
Yeah, thanks, COVID. So we've been sharing internet, which has also been a struggle. But yeah, so I've been crazy busy planning out this virtual event. For anybody out there that's planned a virtual event, people think it's easier than planning a live event, and I would argue that is not the truth. I know you did the same thing. So, but yeah, I'm excited about it. We're going to have about 700 people come to this event. 3 days of a lot of healthcare sessions and activities, mixologists and all kinds of stuff. So
yeah. And you've been working your butt off. I mean, there basically every night last week, you're pulling, starting meetings at 7:30 a.m. and then you're going until 9, 10, 10:30 at night.
yeah.
For me, it was actually not a bad thing because I got to catch up on some shows. If you haven't checked out Cobra Kai, I'm a little ashamed to say that I enjoy it so much, but it's pretty awesome. But I've been doing a lot of that because you've been working nonstop.
Yeah. your inner teeny bopper came out for that show.
My inner teeny bopper did. Yeah. It was, you got Cobra Kai, you've got Laguna Beach, you've got Two-A-Days from back in the day. Go ahead and throw it up. You guys enjoyed that as well.
Yeah.
Kyle jumps in. Mrs. Draper, don't be too good. I don't want to lose my spot due to
coming
sickness.
For you, Kyle.
That's
coming
right. She is, Kyle. But don't you worry, Kyle. We can never leave you alone here on Dad's Watching Sports. Okay, so we talked about busy week. I had a busy week, somewhat with work, but then also kind of hanging around the kids and kind of keeping them going this past week. So this weekend, we needed to let loose a little bit, needed to relax, have a good time, and we had a perfect opportunity to do so, right?
Yeah, so some of our good friends, some of our dear friends in the neighborhood are moving, and we're very sad. So the girls of the couples are a little closer than the guys, but so we planned together.
Hey, I still love you guys. I know you're watching. I know you're listening.
Yeah. We planned a nice little going away bonfire last night we have a community fire pit.
Yep.
So
we were socially distanced. It was outside.
Yeah, it was outside. We were
COVID
freezing,
yes.
but bundled up, and we had a fire, and thought we, would just have some fun and have a little bit of a social gathering, which everybody's missed so much this year. And we maybe took it to the extreme a little bit.
Yeah. Let's just say today has been a struggle for both the Drapers. We had a great time. And again, it was great to get together with everybody. But yeah, after busy weeks and stressful weeks, we partook of beverage, and the beverage got the best of us, if you know what I'm saying. Yeah. And it's
not
been
like when
it's
you're
been a
in
rough
college
day.
And you can like sleep all day. You've got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old they don't care. So they were up and ready to go, and we went on a walk, and we organized their playroom, and it was nonstop.
And we encourage laying down as much as possible,
which they don't do. So we didn't get to do, but we tried.
That we did. Yep. All right. So, honey, I've got to ask you, when I say the term live read, do you know what that is?
A live read?
A live read.
I would say like reading a teleprompter.
Okay, close. So, because we're part of the Off the Ball network now, we're big time. These guys are big time. They got sponsors galore and all this stuff. They said, hey, man, we want you to throw out a little love to some of our sponsors. Oh. So I'm about to do what's called a live read during the show here. And we're talking about the Monkey Knife Fight. Does that sound exciting to you?
It sure does.
I don't know what that is, I'll be honest with you, but it sounds pretty...
we're about to find out.
We are. So Monkey Knife Fight, Suzanne, is a daily fantasy sports gaming website for the casual sports fan. That's simple. It's fun and it's easy to play. Users determine which superstars competing in the days. Professional sporting events will record more or less than the contest line provided. MKF's daily fantasy prop games play similar to the salary cap based DFS games. No idea what that means, but without the algorithms. Nobody likes math. Without the lineups, and most importantly, without the sharks. And we're not talking baby sharks here. There are several contests to choose from, none of which require hours of research, which nobody likes.
Huge plus.
Required for competing sites. Start with a simple 202 or go for the highest payout. That's 100 times and higher by selecting an 8x8 more or less contest. Get started now with 100% instant match bonus and up to $50 with a promo code Off the Ball. So Monkey Knife Fight.
How can you pass that up?
There's our live read.
How can you pass that up?
I feel good about it.
Seems pretty sweet.
That was good.
It was a good first attempt.
It was. I felt really good about that. Okay, so let's move on to one more topic. We had busy weeks. You have your event this week. We partied a little bit too much on Saturday night. Still feeling the effects. And then we find out today.
We get a message.
We get an email from daycare.
The message you never want to get.
No. So one of our daughter's classmates or teacher or someone in the class, I didn't go into who, tested positive. And so therefore that class is shut down for the better part of a week. Now the CDC guideline says 10 days for quarantine. So we've got our 4-year-old home all week following a pretty hellacious couple of weeks. Are you excited?
Well, and let me remind you, this is my event week. So my event kicks off Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And now we have a 4-year-old home, which any of you have toddlers out there, work is impossible to get done. Thankfully, I have an amazing husband that can help take care of her.
Thanks,
and
honey. You're
keep
making
her
me blush.
entertained
You're making me blush.
so that I can get through this event. But yeah, we were.
What are we going to do?
This didn't come, but
what are we going to do? Pray.
We're going to pray a lot.
Yep.
Yeah. We're going to keep her entertained with. What are you going to do?
I have no idea what I'm going to do. I have no idea. We're going to figure something out. She's very smart, and she gets very bored very easily because she's very smart. So dear old dad's going to have to come up with something. Kyle says you might as well keep the 2-year-old at home as well.
Oh, get out of here, Kyle.
Kyle, don't bring
get out of here.
Don't bring that evil on us, Ricky
COVID
Bobby.
is messing with your head.
Do not bring that evil on us, Ricky Bobby.
Nope.
All right. Well, we will figure it out. I will give everybody an update, not only how the week went with Emma, but how Mrs. Draper's event went, which I know it will go fantastic.
Thank you.
But hey, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. This was fun. So,
sorry,
all right.
No sports talk from me.
No sports talk in the first segment, but you guys that watch the show, you know that. Traditionally, we don't get into a whole lot of sports, at least right off the bat, but we will coming up after the break. As I mentioned, Professor Jay is coming on to talk with us a little bit about the Buckeyes and the Tide, the national championship game, everything going on with that. So we will be right back here on Dad's Watching Sports. Y'all stick with us, and we will be right back.
Bye.
Big news in the Dad's Watching Sports podcasting world. You've heard us mention it on the show already. We are now part of the Off the Ball Podcast Network. We're super excited to be joining the team of great shows, hopefully adding a little dad flavor to the mix. You can check out Off the Ball Podcast and Off the Ball Network on all your social media sites. Just search Off the Ball Network. And while you're there, give them a like and a follow. You won't regret it. Welcome back to Dad's Watching Sports. Michael Draper here again. Special thanks to Mrs. Draper. That was last minute with Kyle having to bounce out. And Kyle, you know I love you. I hope you're feeling good. But with him having to bounce out kind of last minute, I said, honey, this is perfect timing. We've had a rough week, an even rougher day today after last night. This would be a great time just to come on and talk about all that. And she was a champ for doing that. Looks like Breeze with another pick, 30-20 with 4 minutes left. The Bucks looks like they're heading on their way to the NFC title game. Michael Draper here, Dad's Watching Sports. Thank you guys so much for checking us out each and every week. Again, we're part of the Off the Ball Network. Very excited to be a part of that. We are also going to be joined right now by Jeff. Jeff, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks so much for having me on the show. I want to welcome you to the network, and it's only been a couple weeks, and I get to be on already. So this is really awesome. Anybody that knows me knows how much I love these guest spots. It's absolutely my favorite thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, we're very honored to have you a part, and thanks for kind of doing this last minute. I know I sprung this up on you about an hour or so before it was go time, but so we definitely appreciate that. And I'm also sorry you have to follow my wife as a guest, man.
That's tough. I was going to apologize to everybody for the downgrade in your guest. Yeah, that's a hard act to follow. So you definitely outkicked your coverage. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah,
and take it from me. I did the same thing. I get it. That's what you got to do.
Oh, without a doubt. So for those for our listeners or viewers that haven't had a chance to check you out yet, tell us just a little bit about what you've got going on, everything you got going on, and where they can find you.
Yeah, so I run a couple podcasts, but Jeff Needs Sports is the one that's mainly linked to the Off the Ball Network. I do a weekly Buckeye recap. I started that this year, and then of course I work with all the other guys on the network, and we do a ton of things exactly like this, a ton of live shows and stuff like that. And then I'm more of a freelance guy, so the other guys are the basketball nerds and everything, and I kind of do what I want. So I got some sports entertainment stuff coming up that I'll get you involved in. I'll get you up to speed on that. As football season winds down, it really opens up, my options. So got some good things coming.
That's fantastic. Well, we'll definitely give you a chance before you jump off to remind people where they can find you.
Appreciate that
for all the stuff you got going on. All right. I know you're a Buckeyes guy.
Yep.
Let's get into the national championship game last week. Man, as I told several people leading up to it, I'm not a Bama fan. Don't like them, even though I have relatives. My wife's brother actually works for their football team, but just not a fan. But man, they're just just on a different level, and that was on full display Monday night.
Yeah, you said it best. They're on a different level. We knew as Buckeye fans when the season started, especially when we knew we were going to have a short season, that the nightmare matchup was Alabama and their wide receivers and that passing game. That was Buckeyes' biggest weakness. Nobody can deny it. All year was our secondary, and we knew that matchup, if it happened, was going to be tough, and it played out just like we all thought. There was nothing Ohio State can do. You can't make adjustments when you don't have the guys to do it. No offense to the Ohio State team. They had a great season. Nothing to be disappointed about. They deserve to be there. But just a total mismatch when it came to talent on that field Monday night.
How much do you think the injury to Trey Sermon impacted? I mean, obviously we know, he's a great player. He was going to have some sort of impact on that game. I don't know if he was going to change 52-24, but would that be in the first play of the game from a psychological standpoint?
It was huge because we had waited all year for him to take that role. Master Teague did a great job earlier in the year, but he's a different type of back, different skill set. What Sermon did, and as a Buckeye fan, you know how it is, your team, you watch a little closer. Sermon did a lot of great things in pass protection. He picked up blitzes really well, and he was a great outlet, kind of like Najee Harris was for Alabama. Najee's better than Sermon, but the same thing to get Fields out of trouble a lot. And Teague's just not that player. And so when we lost that release valve, and that I think that him and Fields had developed a partnership back there. And if you listen, anybody that's listened to my show know all year I talked about Fields needed that partner, and I think they developed it. And when that was taken away, it was absolutely an effect. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. And you've got to feel really bad for Justin Fields. The guy literally put his body on the line in 2 straight games, and they were just overmatched, but the guy gave everything he had.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And he was hurting. He wasn't hurting the game, but he was obviously hurting. There was I think there was at least the big breakaway run in the third quarter. I've watched every game he played. That's typically he scores on that fairly easily, even against Bama. He just didn't have it in him. But he played very well. And then, what he gave us in the Clemson game, that was really what every Ohio State fan needed this year. I'll say this as an Ohio State fan, and the whole fan base will agree. This is the first year that we ever don't feel miserable at the end of the season with a loss. We really feel pretty good about the season, and that Clemson game was huge for us. So we're kind of just letting this one slide. We're just glad we had a season, to be honest.
Well, yeah, and I think that's what a lot of college football fans can just hold your hat on, is to say, man, like I'm a Kentucky fan. We didn't have as good of a season I was hoping for, but at the end of the day, we got to play football.
But that's exactly right.
And so I think as any football fan, even if you're not a fan of Alabama and your team didn't win the championship, you can't walk away from the season and really be tremendously upset. So just kind of quickly, last thing on the Buckeyes. How do you feel about them going into next year? Is it just reload again? Let's go.
Yeah, I think mostly, this is the first year in a couple years since, it hasn't been that long. We've been pretty, lucky with quarterbacks in the last 10 years. But, 3 years ago, we didn't know if it was going to be Burrow or Haskins. We had an actual quarterback battle. And then, wound up being Haskins, and the rest is history. At Burrow at LSU. Fields was the obvious starter the last 2 years. And so we've actually got a really talented quarterback room. We assume it's going to be Stroud or Jack Miller. And then next year, there's another freshman coming in. Then we got the number 1 freshman coming after that in 22. So the most interesting thing is we got talent all over the field. Do we have some young guys to play defense? I think everybody saw on display that we lack some team speed on defense, the side of the ball. Hopefully we've got some young guys to fill those positions. And then, we got a ton of talent at wide receiver coming back, a pretty good running back room. And I think they're clearly the best team in the Big Ten. I know that's not saying a lot from you guys outside of the Big Ten. I'm not a Big Ten fan either, but I don't think it's much to say that they should, without a doubt, be the favorite in the Big Ten, which puts them right back in the playoff hunt.
Puts them right back there. And it's whatever Ryan Day has been able to do with that program, that you guys have not missed a beat.
It's
leadership.
Yeah, we're happy about it, to be honest with you.
I'm absolutely sure. So let's talk about Bama for a few minutes. It seems like everybody has recency bias every time there's a champion, that, this is the greatest team ever. We saw this last year with LSU, and that very well may have been. But now people are saying, maybe Bama was just as good, or maybe this is one of the best teams of all time. Let's maybe just kind of look at Alabama championship teams under Saban. So you got what, 2009, 12, 15, 11, 12, 15, and now 20.
Yeah.
Where do you feel like this team ranks amongst those championship teams?
Yeah, I was glad you emailed me this subject. I think it's a great topic. It made me a little nauseous when you said of the six. And here's the thing, that's how football fans are, right? I mean, Ohio State's got a playoff championship 6 years ago, and it feels like light years ago now. But yeah, honestly, I think this 20 team is the best of them, but only because of the offense. I always say that 6 years ago when Ohio State beat Alabama, that's when they decided, like, okay, now we need to turn our offense up. Like, if we can score points, then we're not going to lose again. And they really haven't. I mean, they've had a couple good battles with, they have 4 good battles with Clemson throughout the years and lost a couple close games, but their offense is really taking it up a notch. And I think this offense was better than even the offense with Tua. They ran, when you take all that talent, then you actually give them the ball, it's impossible to stop. We see that with LSU for years. They put all these receivers in the NFL and you're like, what's going on? Well, you got to get them the ball. Well, that's what Alabama did. They actually got them the ball. The defense is better than people think. They got a lot of flack this year because basically the Ole Miss game, that just tainted the season the whole rest of the time. Even Ohio State fans were like, nah, their defense ranked pretty well and they tackled well and they've got team speed. I honestly think this team beats any of those Bama teams, but just like you said, every year is a different type of football. I really like that 2012 team, sorry. They lost early, but man, by the time they got to that, it was a BCS game then against Notre Dame. Yeah. That was one. I mean, that was a commanding victory. No looking back. You couldn't stop those running backs. It was a mismatch. That 2012 team to me was really good. But man, what was the one they beat LSU?
It was what year was that? 2000.
Was that the 11 team? That was the 11 team. 11, correct?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, really good team, but I don't know that team could score with 2020.
Yeah. I mean, and that team had, granted, their defense was just unbelievable. I think in that national championship game, they didn't allow LSU to cross the 50-yard line.
Unbelievable performance.
Which was an undefeated LSU team, but their offense wasn't just a tremendous juggernaut like you alluded to. Yeah, we're not going to look back at those teams. I think I guess it was the 2017 team that beat Georgia in overtime. They won that championship, but I think if you really asked anybody, Georgia was probably the better team that year.
I was heartbroken for Georgia, and I had no stake in the game. Yeah, Georgia was the better team on the field for sure.
Yeah. So my normal co-host, Kyle Castles, who is stricken with COVID but is at home.
Hey, feel better, Kyle. Hope everything's going well with your family, man. That's scary.
Yeah, absolutely. He says this Bama team played an all SEC schedule, best team ever. I mean, there's a lot of truth to that because no other team has ever had to play that all conference schedule.
No, it was impressive. They had a totally impressive season. I don't have any knock on their season whatsoever. It's a shame that we didn't get to see those cross-conference rivalries this year to see what they would have done. But I don't know. And they had the 2 playoff games, which is an advantage over the 2012, the 2009 teams. So they got to play a really good Notre Dame team and a really good Ohio State team and dismantled both of them. I mean, that's the resume it speaks for itself.
Yeah, without a doubt. All right. So speaking of championship teams, again, recency bias is usually pretty evident when there's a new championship crown or a new champion crown. On our Twitter feed this past week, I put out a tweet saying the best NCAA football champion of the past 20 years. I gave 4 options and then gave people the option to add in other. But we had 2001 Miami. I think they speak for themselves. 04 USC, who went in and beat Oklahoma like 55-14 in I think it was the Orange Bowl.
It would have been the Orange Bowl then, right?
Yeah, the 2019 LSU team, and then this year's Bama team or another team. So if you look at the past 20 years, so 2000 to 2020, who would you have, or who do you think is kind of the best champion, or is it one of those that we listed?
Well, no, I mean, you definitely listed the best. I would have I'm guilty as charged. A year ago, I said LSU was the best, even though, we got caught, but that offense was, I don't know who they would have lost to. The one team, when I went back and looked, of course, I always give a shout out to the Ohio State teams because it's always weird with the Ohio State fans because we recognize that the 2001 Hurricanes were maybe the best team in college football history. And then the next year when they were supposed to be that good again, we beat them. So it's always tough for us to go undefeated, beat that 0-2 Hurricanes team, and then it's almost like it's a fluke or something. So it's always weird. But I don't think that 02 Buckeyes team was one of the best champions ever. They were really good though. First 14-0 college football team though.
Yeah.
But the one I kind of looked at was I remember that the 08 Florida Gators. That was Tim Tebow's junior year, the Heisman year. Really good team. I remember that team, and I went and looked. I mean, half the roster was NFL players. It's unbelievable what they put into the NFL. They were dominant, and we talked about it. Even it sounds crazy, but even 12, 13 years ago, the game was different. So the margin of victory doesn't look like it does now with this Bama team. But I remember watching that team, and they were a machine. So I don't think they're maybe better than any of these teams, but I think they're in the conversation. But I think your list was right on. That 04 USC team was amazing. Really.
And they got no respect in the poll. They got 6% of the vote
in our poll. And for those of you that might be interested, so Miami got 36%. They won the vote in the poll. Second was last year's LSU team at 29, Bama this year at 27, and USC 04. I guess maybe people just don't respect Bush and Matt Leinart anymore. But man,
but look at there's Hall of Famers that played on that 01 team at this point, and the 04 team put out some guys too. So it's just that's how. And then again, if you're going to say that, we say that about the 04 team, then that means how good was 05 Texas?
Right.
And actually it's a crazy one. The 06 Buckeyes would have been, if they would have finished that off against Florida, they would have been considered one of the greatest teams of all time. And then Florida, totally upset that apple cart. So you just never know. But man, that 01 Hurricane season was special for sure. But
yeah. They, and just like you mentioned, going down really all these teams, you go down the roster and it's just, NFL guy, NFL guy. And kudos to your Buckeyes for being a part of that a couple of times.
Like I say, shout out to the first playoff winner. That 14-15 Buckeyes team was really good, but they were really good for a month. They had to. It took them a while to get going that season, and then by the time they played in the playoffs, they beat Alabama and Oregon. Speaks for itself. But they weren't one of the greatest teams ever. Throughout the year.
So let's talk about 2021.
Yes.
Everybody puts out their way too early top 25. Kyle and I were going to do that tonight. We're going to push that back. We actually found out over the weekend. We've got Cole Kubelik from the SEC Network is going to be coming on with a guest with us in a couple of weeks. So we're going to push our way too early top 25 off for him. But having you on the show, and I know you're a big college football guy, I wanted to get your take on. You don't have to give me your whole 25, but maybe just somebody that you think should be there, or maybe a surprise team, or somebody that's maybe working their way up, or
because you're right. I'm actually working on one myself, and it's crazy as you go through it. Next year is one of those years to where it's the blue bloods again. Oklahoma. Any team that brings a good quarterback back in college football is huge. So you got Oklahoma's going to be way up there. Clemson's up there. I think we realize that their next quarterback is really good. He had enough playing time this year. They're going to reload. They're going to be good. Alabama's going to be good. They've got a lot of questions to answer, but they always answer them. So we're kind of just assuming that everybody's just going to be next man up for Alabama. I think Georgia could be really, really good. Before the win over Cincinnati, I was like, yeah, this team's really good. And then they're one of these teams that they're so close to, I think, winning a championship, and there's always something missing. But I think Daniels with a healthy year, I think Georgia's up there. I think USC is going to be way up there. And you got to factor in the conference. Like say USC and Ohio State, they're in the same boat. I think they're the best team clearly in their conference, which is going to put them in the playoff hunt, which is going to put them, top 5, top 10 easy. Cincinnati will be back as far as, a non-power top 5, but man, a lot of it's business as usual. North Carolina ought to, they ought to be able to have one game against Clemson and decide whether they can go to the playoffs or not.
Right.
So they're going to be up. They're bringing what people assume is the number one pick, number one quarterback next year, and Sam Howell. So like I say, anytime you bring a quarterback, that's huge. And it's crazy. Will Indiana, can they repeat again? I don't know. Those teams don't tend to reload right away, only because it takes a while to build that depth, that the top ones do. So they tend to take a loss early. The Big Ten, I don't know where you find optimism if you're a Big Ten fan as far as outside. I mean, Wisconsin thought they had the quarterback in the next 3 years, and he kind of just looks like another Wisconsin quarterback. They're going to be good, but I don't know if we were going to put them up there with Alabama. Texas A&M loses their quarterback. Ole Miss, there's a team that could really Kiffin in his second year, I think Ole Miss can make some noise if they can knock off an LSU or an Alabama. I don't know the schedules yet, but there's a team that I could see creeping up there, with one big win here or there. So outside of that, it's kind of business as usual. Once again, I obviously haven't had time to go through the top 25, but there's not a lot of shockers, because you're coming off a year to where people didn't play across conference. Oregon will be good, but I think USC is going to be really good, and I think that the rest are pretty much par for the course, unfortunately. But
yeah, and that's I love college football. I mean, I would sit here and talk about it all day on our show if we really wanted to. But yeah, you really look at over the past. I mean, we just talked about the past 20 years of champions, and it's the same crew almost every year. You're going to get the Buckeyes, Oklahoma, Alabama, LSU every once in a while, Notre Dame because of their schedule more often than not, and you fill in, your Pac-12 or Pac-10 or Pac-12 team, whatever they are, whoever that is over the last couple of years. But it's just the same familiar cast as always, and because it comes down to recruiting, and when you're able to recruit.
And when you look at the recruiting, it's the same. Like Florida, they've got to replace a quarterback again. I thought that the kid, the next guy looks pretty good. Now, the one thing it's going to factor in too is, we're not used to this, but anybody can come back next year. This year didn't count towards eligibility. So even like Ohio State's already got a great tackle coming back, which is huge. Who you're starting, like NFL left tackle is going to be next year. That's big going into it. So a lot of these teams will have the transfers are going to, there's going to be a lot of older guys in places that are going to change things. And real quick on LSU, I want to be one of the first ones out there. I don't think this season, was the outlier. I don't have as much faith in Coach O without Brady coaching and without Burrow. I don't know that they're going to be immediately come back like people assume they will. I think there might be a flaw down there, but we'll see.
Yeah, well, they definitely have the talent.
For sure.
They've got the full cupboard, and then
always
not Doug Johnson, but Brad Johnson's kid came in and was playing quarterback for him at the end of the year. Looked really good in the last couple of games. So I think it'll be interesting to see. But I think you're kind of spot on with some of those teams. Kyle chimes in. Don't rule out Iowa State in the Big 12. That's a good call.
100%. Yeah.
And also says Georgia will be tough.
I totally agree, Kyle. Yeah, Iowa State, great year, great defense. That's a good point.
All right, Jeff, man, again, I can't thank you enough for kind of pinch hitting last minute and jumping on. It's nice to meet you and nice to be a part of the network with you. And
we're glad to have you, man. You guys do a great job.
Thank you. And again, give everybody a quick shout out of where they can find your work and what else you have going on.
Yeah. You can find me at Jeff Needs Sports Podcast. I do some non-sports stuff at Jeff Needs Help. I know these guys do a lot of non-sports stuff, so you might like Jeff Needs Help. We actually just did an episode. We're doing a WandaVision recap, every week.
Nice.
And then, of course, you can go to Off the Ball Network and find, all the writing and stuff that we do. And you can find me on Twitter at jhunt006. And just, keep supporting these guys too. Dad's Watching Sports is doing an awesome job, and we're lucky to have them.
Well, we appreciate that, Jeff. We'll talk to you soon, man. Take care.
Absolutely.
And we will be back after the break. We got the godfather of the network. That's right. Chris LeBron's going to join us right after the break. We're going to be talking some NBA. We'll be back on Dad's Watching Sports.
Coming up next week on Dad's Watching Sports, the dads will give our initial preview of Super Bowl 55, and we'll remember the late Kobe Bryant, with the tragedy being 1 year later. And we'll talk about the Dad's Watching Sports 1 year anniversary show coming up Super Bowl Sunday. All of that, and hopefully a healthy Kyle Castles on next week, Dad's Watching Sports.
We're listening to Dad's Watching Sports.
Now back to the show.
Welcome back to Dad's Watching Sports. Michael Draper. If you're just now checking out the show, we've had an awesome show. Kyle Castle's unfortunately been out. He's got COVID. And Kyle, feel better, buddy. He's been chiming in throughout the show. Started off the show with Mrs. Draper joining us as a special guest to talk about some fun stuff that we had going on this weekend. And if we had any advice for you, if you haven't gone back and listened to the first part of the show yet, when you got a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old in the house, don't be out too late drinking the night before because they make you pay the next day. they make you pay indeed. But I and also want to thank Jeff for coming on of his podcast. Thank him for coming on the last segment. He was great talking a lot of college football talk. But we are joined now by Chris LeBron of Off the Ball Podcast and Off the Ball Network. Chris, welcome back. You're the first two-time guest on our show. So congratulations to you, sir.
Awesome. I'm happy. Thanks for having me on, man. I know it was a little late, but I'm excited to be on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And thank you for kind of jumping in last minute again. Kyle kind of let us know last minute, no harm, no foul there, Kyle, but I appreciate you jumping on with us kind of last minute here in time.
I hope he feels better. I really hope he feels better. I know that kind of sucks. So, get better soon, Kyle.
Absolutely. We definitely mean that. All right. Well, let's talk a little NBA. We don't do it a whole lot here on this show, but I definitely wanted to get your take. Some new COVID protocols came out within the past couple of weeks. Just want to get a few conversations and points about that. So there's some new rules about interactions pregame and postgame. A lot of that doesn't really go on anyways. But the one thing that I thought was just really interesting is they said that players have to wear a mask on the bench at all times. And I'm not, this is not a anti-mask rant or anything like that, because I wear mine anywhere I go. But I'm also thinking, okay, so you're playing in the game, you're sweating and leaning on these guys, you're up in everybody's face, you're with your teammates all season long, all day long. But when you're on the bench, you have to wear a mask. I don't know that I understand it. Can you help me make any sense of that?
I don't get it either. Like, I'm all for wearing mask on, out about, but you do all this testing and all that, and you're like, I don't get why that has to be such an issue with the mask. Like you said, you got guys going at it, bodies on each other, during the game, but the minute they get to the bench, they got to wear the mask. I don't know. I mean, you do all the testing and all that. That should be fine enough. I don't get why that has to be the case, to wear the mask. But, it's just these new protocols, a lot of these rules. I mean, it's kind of like, all right, I'm all for safety and all that, but it's like, all right, now you guys are a little, like, you can't dap each other. And then if it's crazy, like in the last few games, you would see guys, and then you would see refs like try to like tell them, hey, no, can't do that no more. Like, you can't interact. Like, come on, this is an emotional game. Listen, I get it. Want to be healthy, want to stay safe, but at the end of the day, like, everyone does the testing. We're all good. Hey, I should be able to fist. But hey, good game. You just battled someone for for a whole game. Went at it toe to toe, sweating on each other. Like, what's me giving you a dap? Saying, hey man, good game. Whatever. I these new rules. Just a little over the top, just a little over the top.
A little obsessed. And I agree with you completely. Like, safety first and mask up and all that. I'm all 100% for it. But I think there was I can't remember who it was. A couple of nights ago, I saw a tweet where it was Boogie Cousins was like dapping a guy with his foot, like they were doing like basically a foot touch, or just basically saying, "Hey, what's going on?" or "Hey, good game," or something like that. And it's like that's kind of what it's come to. And they think about, like, okay, again. Why are the coaches having to wear the mask on the sideline when they're around the players?
Yeah,
in the locker room, and it's probably more for optics, and I get that.
But, exactly. It's all out.
It definitely makes you scratch your head, and you're like,
yeah. What I am happy about is that the coaches are allowed to wear just a regular jumpsuit, basketball stuff. Because to me, I always thought, like, why does the coach have to wear a suit? Like, he's up, he's getting, interacting in the game, yelling, screaming, doing all this stuff. Why do they have, like in high school, they're not wearing suits,
Right.
Why? That's the one thing I'm like, I hope they keep that, because like they look like coaches. Like, this is what coaches look like on, in the youth level and all that. Like, why do they have to wear a suit and tie during a game and all? I just never understood that. So maybe hopefully, nice polo, some. Yeah, I think, but that's the one thing I'm like, all right, let's keep that. But like you said, all the rules and all that, like, it's definitely a little. I think they're trying to like you said, it's optics and all that. They just want to, but it's got to the point where even the players are like, really, like, come on now, like, this is definitely like you're going way over the top. Now, it's like we mentioned before, we all care about safety, but it's like, all right, there's like you got to give us a little bit, like you're allowing fans back and all this, and we're battling, like we said, but I can't say hey, good game, or it's gotten a little bored with these new protocols with them.
Yep. All right, let's stick in the NBA. Big trade, obviously, this past week. 4-team trade ends up with Harden going to the Nets. So you look at that trade for all the teams that are involved. Obviously, you're people are going to most noticeably see that trade and see Harden ending up with KD, potentially with Kyrie if he ever decides to play again in New Jersey or in Brooklyn, excuse me. But when you look at the trade as a whole, I mean, you're an NBA guy. Who do you think actually, quote unquote, won the trade? Were there multiple winners? How did you see that all kind of unfolding?
I think when we see trades like this, you kind of have to go with who got the best player in the trade right now, because it's kind of hard to predict if the Houston Rockets are going to win this trade, because we're going to have to wait and see. Right. Like we can't. It's cool that they got picks, but we don't know who those players are going to be. Like if they end up being, two of those guys end up being all-stars and help them lead the championships, then we could look back on and be like, hey, they probably won the. But right now, the Nets won it because they got the best player in the trade. They got James Harden. I mean, we're talking about. I know how he went about all his stuff this year is not popular, but he didn't want to be there, and he got his way, and he wanted to be in Brooklyn. So now you see how motivated he is, right? The way to it's crazy how he was looking a little plumpy in Houston, to say the least, and suddenly that weight's gone. But right now, yeah, they definitely. I mean, James Harden. I mean, no matter what you say about him, as far as being clutch in the playoffs and not winning championships, at the end of the day, he's going to go down as one of the greatest scorers of all time, one of the greatest shooting guards of all, just one of the greatest players, period, of all time. He's just a special talent. And now we're Brooklyn. They gave up a lot. They gave up a lot, to say the least. But they've done this before and it hasn't worked. But I think it's different because I know a lot of people bring up the trade where they traded for Pierce and Garnett. Those players, I never understood that trade because those guys were definitely on the decline. And there's a reason why Boston loaded that. So I never understood why they did. I get it because Prokhorov just came. Brooklyn's new, so Prokhorov wanted to make a home run splash, and that's not the move that they should have made. Billy King even was telling them, but they did it, and a lot of those picks turned up to be some good players. Jason Tatum was one of them, but we're gonna see. I mean, James Harden, like I said, his first game, he had I think he had a triple double. Yeah. So right now, you got to give it to Brooklyn simply because James Harden trumps whatever picks and all that at the moment. And so, yeah, Brooklyn definitely – it hurts me as a Knicks fan saying that, but because I got to see this on a daily basis, hearing all the good things about Harden and the crew. But, yeah, I definitely give it to Brooklyn right now as far as the winners.
So – what's your take on what's going on with Kyrie? I mean, I know people are getting a little obsessed with this, probably more than they should be. I mean, we're talking about it on this show, and I don't know that we've ever mentioned Kyrie's name. But do you anticipate him being back in the uniform for them, getting back on the court and making them the contender that they can be with that three-headed monster over them?
Yeah, I definitely think this helps him. The trade for Harden makes it a little easier for him to come back. I don't know what Kyrie's going through. I don't know if he has, he's just going through a tough stage in life, which at the end of the day, if that's the case, no matter if you're making $90 million a year or you're making $13 an hour, life is life. And there's nothing we have to, I think that's the one thing with this whole situation that we don't know about. And, we should get more information, see what's going on, because he may be going through stuff that we just don't know about. Even though he is getting killed in the media, and maybe he should have handled some stuff better, just about elaborating what's going on. But I think he'll definitely be back. I think he wanted to play Saturday, but because of the protocols and he was at a nightclub for his sister's and father's birthday, I think there's still. I mean, he got fined for that heavily. Yeah. And missed some game checks because of that. I mean, he lost a lot of money, no matter how much you make, losing close to $500,000, I believe.
That hurts everybody.
It hurts everyone, or maybe less, but it's still a lot of money no matter what. So I think he's definitely going to be back. I think Harden and KD will have a heart-to-heart to him. And, just because, listen, these three guys are ball dominant guys, especially Harden and Kyrie. And I mean, these guys are 3 of the top 20 guys in usage rate. So they're gonna have to figure out. They're gonna have to have that moment where they're gonna all have to talk and be like, hey, how are we gonna make this work? Is it unlike any other big three? We've seen big threes where it's like Wade and LeBron, but then you have Bosh, who's kind of, play that third fiddle, and same thing with Kevin Love and all that, right? We always have that third guy that can kind of do, sacrifice a little bit. It's going to be different with this, but I definitely think they have a talk with Kyrie and just get him back. And, I think he'll be back soon. Whenever protocol, he passes all the protocols and all the, all the safety regulations and all that. I think he'll be back, and it'll be interesting to see how they look when it's all 3 of them, because it's a different big 3 than we've ever seen before.
Yeah, and it's a different coach with Nash there in his first year, man. That's quite a team to inherit in your first year to end up bringing on. Your coach and Steve Nash. But I'm not knocking Nash. I'm sure he'll be able to get things kind of in order. But definitely for him, I'm sure he was happy to have the roster. But I'm sure he's like, man, this is going to be interesting. So when you look at the East, from on paper, I think this clearly puts the Nets in the driver's seat, but that's on paper. And like you said, they got to find a way how to make this work. Do you still think at the end of the day, the Eastern Conference Championship's going through Brooklyn?
Yeah, I picked them to go to the finals before this, and that was just because I saw KD play and he was back, and I was like, that's good enough for me, because he's the best he's the best player in the East right now, because he's just that good. And the fact that he was able to come back the way he has and be the same player that he was before is kind of remarkable. Usually, especially when Achilles, it takes guys a while, but modern day medicine is just, back in Dominique Wilkins tore his Achilles 20, 30 years ago, and he was done for a while. Like Achilles injuries, it was like a death sentence in sports. And now it's like, all right, you're going to be gone for, a while, but you're just going to, you could be the same player again, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, I still think it's Brooklyn. I mean, Boston, it feels like they're missing something. Mm-hmm. They need another piece. Tatum, obviously he's out with the protocol, with the COVID protocols and all that. And Jaylen Brown stepped up, but they're still missing. Kemba's battling the knee injury. He just came back today. He played against the Knicks today. Just seems like Philadelphia, Embiid has missed some time. It still feels like they're missing something too. Ben Simmons, I thought they should have took a chance and went after James Harden. I felt like it was even worth trading Ben Simmons for, because what Harden can do on the court, add that with Embiid, that's you're having almost that could be 70 points a game, on a daily basis. I mean, to me, that that could have been work. I would have done that. But yeah, the East I think it's Brooklyn. Yeah. Once they get in rhythm, and I don't think Harden will have to sacrifice too much of his game. I think he'll just have to just not have the ball in his hand so much, but his game is not really going to change that much. So, and they have Kevin Durant. He's even if it's just Harden and Durant, I just like the way they are right now. To me, everyone in the East is just still like Indiana has some Sabonis played well, but I think it's Brooklyn. They just, like I said, it hurts to say that, but they got KD and Harden. I mean, that's it could have us on the court. I think they could still get us. They could get us to the finals. I mean, you got 2 of the best players in the world. Yeah. Yeah, I think talent will trump them, especially in the 7-game series. They got the 2 best players on the court most nights against every team in the East. So I think they'll represent the East in the finals.
Yeah, well, and something you said was a perfect segue to our next topic. In NBA, yeah, you don't have as many upsets in the playoffs because you got to win. It's a 7-game series, unlike college basketball where it's a one and done and there's upsets all the time. Let's talk a little college hoops. You're a Duke guy. I'm a Kentucky guy. The Blue Bloods of college basketball, man, are having a rough year. Yeah, where there's talks and I mean it's beginning to really look like 3 of the biggest Blue Bloods of them all, and no pun intended, Duke, Kentucky, and North Carolina all may be out of the NCAA tournament by the time March rolls around. It's pretty odd to see. You've got these teams that are traditionally so good struggling, and then you've got teams like Iowa, Gonzaga, Baylor, all these teams that are not traditional.
Clemson is playing good basketball.
But yeah, they're playing really good basketball. It's what a wild year. Alabama, it's a football school. They're undefeated in the SEC and just blowing everybody out.
Yep.
It's a wild, weird year in college.
That's to say the least. It's like your Kentucky team. You look at the talent, like, and Cal. You always trust Calipari, right? He gets a bunch of top freshmen, Clark and BJ Boston, Askew, and you just assume he's gonna figure it out. But it just seems like with this team this year, it just hasn't clicked. It just hasn't clicked. And I don't know if it's because it's just weird. It's just everything's weird. It's just not what we're accustomed to. And the same thing with Duke. Like the Duke team, like they just not in sync, and they've been playing a little better of late, but they've missed also a whole bunch of games they were supposed. I just think that this guys are just not in rhythm. Yeah. I think the upperclassmen, like, and we're seeing with the teams that are dominated by upperclassmen, there seems like they've gotten used to it quicker. They've adjusted quicker, and that's why we're seeing a lot of teams like Baylor and Iowa, Gonzaga, teams upperclassmen that are adjusting more. But with the younger teams like Duke, Kentucky, Carolina, that still have a lot of young guys, it feels like it's taking a lot more to adjust to just, hey, there's no one in the crowd. Hey, like your game's gonna get canceled on the day of because a guy gets COVID and we got to cancel. I just think it's just a whole lot of weirdness, and it's taking guys a little longer to get adjusted to it. I just think it's just a funky year, man. It's just a real funky year.
It is. And, thinking of like Kentucky, normally when you have a young team, they can really feed off the energy of a crowd. And it's somewhere like Kentucky where there's 20,000 people, or Duke where there's 12,000, but they're packed in there and they're crazy. Those guys are going to feed off the crowd for energy on the offensive and defensive end, and they don't have that.
Exactly. So no crowd is huge. It's in the NBA too. I mean, I don't know if you noticed too, but there's a lot of blowouts.
Yeah.
And that's because, how many teams feed off of, if you're down 15, you need that crowd energy to get you back. So now instead of a 15-point game turning into maybe a 5-point game, it's flipping now because we're seeing a whole bunch of blowouts. We're seeing it in college basketball too, and especially kids that if you're an upperclassman and you're used to the Cam and Crazies, or you're used to Kentucky, at Rupp Arena, and now there's no one there to help you get that extra energy you need to get you that back in rhythm. And now you're just relying on your teammates shouting, and now you're hearing Coach Cal in your hair even more. Like, I don't think people realize that, like, Coach K's yelling at you and you hear everything he's saying, Coach Cal, and I think that's really affecting a lot, like the lack of, obviously no fans. Some teams have fans, but just not that atmosphere. Like I said, it's just weird. I mean, imagine you sign into Kentucky thinking, I'm going to play in front of 20,000 people. Duke, I'm going to play in front of the Cam and Crazies, be on prime time. And now it's just, you look and you're like, this is like AAU.
Yeah.
Even living less people, because, at least you have some people, but it's like, wow, this is like, we were practicing, but it's just, we're practicing against Clemson or Wake Forest or LSU. Like it's just like I said before, it's just a weird year, and it's really hard to evaluate teams because we just don't know how good teams are or how bad teams are. It's just a really weird year, man.
That it is. He's Chris LeBron of Off the Ball Podcast and Off the Ball Network. So we're going to get into a couple of picks, pick the championship games in the NFL here in just a second. But tell everybody out there kind of what's the latest on your podcast and with the network, and just kind of where they can find your show and everything else going on with Off the Ball Network.
Yeah. So the podcast, I have the show is on Dash Radio now. I got picked up maybe like a few months ago by Dash. So I have the show on Mondays at 12 noon Eastern on Dash Radio on the Nothing But Net radio channel. So you could listen to there. I got a show coming out tomorrow. I just talked to a guy that was a top high school player out in Queens, and then he wound up playing at Coppin State. So so that's coming on tomorrow, and I got a few things up that I got, a few shows I got lined up that I'm looking forward to. That I got ready to go. But yeah, it's been since the last time I was on a show, a lot has changed. It's crazy how one show led to another show, and then like just word of mouth, and it kind of just took off from there. And it's been really dope. I got, like I said, I got some good shows with the bad, but just broadening too. Obviously, we talked wrestling the last time I was on.
Yeah.
I got Chris Van Vliet. I don't know if you heard of Chris Van Vliet. I got him on the show, and it just happened to just be the luckiest of lucks. It's an at, and I tell people just at. Hey, you just at people. You just never. I remember I helped out a buddy of mine podcast, and we were talking about Duke. And he was doing like a little Q&A, and he was like, yeah, who's my? I was like, and I added JJ Redick, and then I fell asleep and woke up to JJ Redick retweeted like, hey, yeah, I'll hop on your show, and me adding him, he wound up having JJ on the show. So I just add people. You just never know who answers. Like, absolutely. So just doing that now, I got him on the show. So, just broadening, just adding shows to the network. The network's kind of, it was an idea I always wanted to do, but just didn't know how to, I have to figure out how to do it. And had a couple guys like Jeff and Mo, that I said, hey, let's get this going. I need, can't do it by myself. So got them on board, and, we've had some success. And like I said, happy to have you guys aboard on the network, and looking forward to just adding more shows. We got a great group of guys on the show, and we're just looking to continue to expand in 2021, get bigger and better. And so I'm excited. Like, Off the Ball Network is definitely it's taken off way more than I anticipated. The podcast is doing better than I ever thought to. So just a lot of good things. I'm really excited about 2021, and for Off the Ball Podcast, Off the Ball Network, and everyone involved. I'm rooting for everyone, at the network to do some good things. I think good things are definitely happening.
That's right. Jeff jumps in and says the Prez is thriving. That's right.
I'm trying.
And we're excited to be a part of it, man. So we really appreciate you guys allowing us to be a part of it here on Dad's Watching Sports. All right, let's get quick picks here, and then we got to get out of here. AFC Championship game is set. We've got the Bills going into Kansas City. Not sure what's going to be the going on with Mahomes, but you've got Bills, who's been playing really well. Who you got, Buffalo and the Bills Mafia, or the Chiefs make a repeat to the Super Bowl?
Man, Mahomes things really, really changes everything.
Yeah,
it really changes everything. So that's going to be something to look forward to. But let's say he play. I think he's going to do everything possible to play, and even Mahomes at 80% is better than Chad Henne at 100%. No disrespect to Chad Henne, but Chad Henne is what he is, at this point of his career. So, but you know what? I'm going to go with Buffalo. I've been on the Buffalo train all year long. I absolutely love Josh Allen. I'm still mad at the Giants for not taking Josh Allen in the draft. I'll never forgive him for that. You don't take a running back that high, but that's for a whole different show. But
yeah,
I just like the way he's playing, and I think they can. That the Chiefs defense still isn't strong. They got a lot of holes in the secondary, so I think Josh Allen could capitalize that, and especially if Mahomes is dinged up, and that run game, that Chiefs run game is kind of non-existent at this moment. Mm-hmm. So, I'm gonna go with Buffalo with the upset. I'm gonna go with Buffalo with the upset.
Man, I gotta admit, I'm going with them too.
There you go.
It's a hard sell for me because I grew up a Dolphins fan, and so to pick the Bills at anything is just. I just don't want to do it. But man, I told Kyle last week, I feel like almost kind of a team of destiny.
I know, right? I feel like they're America's team right now.
They are.
I feel like they're America's team
because they were so bad for so long, and now they've had success. So yeah, I'm taking the Bills as well. I think they go into Kansas City and just shock the world and end up making the Super Bowl. So we've got the Bills representing the AFC. NFC just went final just a little while ago. The Bucs ended up beating the Saints, and they go on to face the Packers at Lambeau. You got Brady, you got Rodgers. It's going to be in Lambeau, the frozen tundra. Brady's familiar with the cold weather. You got Bucs or you got Packers meeting the Bills in the Super Bowl.
I don't know if you know, but I'm a huge Tom Brady fan. I've always loved the story behind him. Just been a big fan of his for pretty much since his career started. So I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beating Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. Even though the Packers, their offense, if you just look at their weapons, you're like, all right, they should be this good offensively, but it just seems like they're clicking. But I just like I think Tampa Bay, they're going to try to figure some things out defensively. I mean, White had a tremendous game today. He had 2 interceptions. I know the secondary can be had, but I think if they could pull enough pressure, I think the Packers' left tackle situation is a little up in there. So if they can get some pressure with Sue, Pierre-Paul, Shaq Barrett, I think they could do some stuff. And I think Tom Brady's played in the cold, so I'm not worried about that. He's going to have Gronk's played in the cold. He's going to have these guys. They're going to be ready, prepared. This is a big game. I think these guys are just like combined 80 years old. It's the second oldest game, I think, maybe, behind this one we just saw. I think the Bucks get it done and they get to the Super Bowl this year.
Okay. I'm going to go Packers. And the reason I agree with almost everything you said, but I think everybody is going to be saying that this week. Everybody's going to be picking the Bucks. That they're going to go with Brady. And I think because of that, and because the Packers have been the best team in the NFC pretty much all year long,
they've been good.
They're going to have the feeling of no respect, getting the disrespect card. So I'm going to take the Packers to knock off the Bucks and go to the Super Bowl. Kyle chimes in. Chiefs over Bills. Patty Mahomes plays, and he's got the Bucks over the Pack. So Kyle, we will hold you to that next week with our picks. But yeah, so you've got Bills, Bucks. I've got Bills, Packers. Kyle's got Chiefs, Bucks in the Super Bowl. So it'll be it's going to be fun to watch regardless.
Exactly, it's going to be a bunch of good games. Which that's going to be the best part. It's just going to be some good football.
Yep.
That's what we want.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, man, again, thanks so much for coming on, especially last minute, man. I know I appreciate you jumping on with us. And, man, again, thanks for letting us be a part of the network. And we'll check out Off the Ball. Look forward to everything you guys are putting out there as well. So, guys, we are out for this week, but everybody have a great week.